hello, and welcome to my boyfriend's office again. The synths are back. If you came here for the synths, this is them. Anyway, oh wait, actually, hold on. They have lights, so let's go. So hi, hello, and welcome to one of the worst books I've read this year, which objectively I read a lot of bad books for fun, for pleasure, you know? Sometimes it's like a palate cleanser. I read a really good book and then I read like a little Kindle Unlimited book as like a refresh, you know, so that I can appreciate good literature. But this book I had high hopes for. So I got this book at my favorite bookstore, Exile and Bookville in Chicago, and I was like, this is perfect for the Ides of March. And so I got it, and then I read it, and then it was awful, and now I'm gonna talk about it. The book is The Latinist. This book is about this girl who's in her last year at Oxford, and she gets this anonymous email that basically says like, hey, you should really reconsider who's writing your letters of recommendations. She reads the letter of recommendation that she got sent on this email, and it's literally her professor being like, she kind of sucks, but in a like polite intellectual way, you know? She realizes that's why she hasn't gotten any job offers except for the University of Oxford to teach with him. His name is Chris. Her name is Tessa. That's the basic premise. I read the summary and I was like, yes, like this is great. Ooh, this sounds fun. Good things about it is a really interesting thought, you know, like a really great start to a story. Clearly, this author is extremely knowledgeable about what he's talking about, and the flow is good. It's not easy to read. The first half of the book, I was like, I'm not really liking it, but I do think it is quite easy to read. That's some good things I would say about it. However, I had so many problems with it. For one, she's writing her dissertation on this poem by this dude named Marcus. He wrote a poem that is Daphne's point of view on the myth of Apollo and Daphne. And I'm a huge Greek mythology fan, so I know about the myth of Apollo and Daphne. But if you don't know about the myth of Apollo and Daphne, you're gonna be even more lost than I was. And I was lost. Basically, the myth of Apollo and Daphne is Apollo gets shot with Cupid's arrow because Apollo made Cupid jealous, and then he falls in love with Daphne. Cupid shoots Daphne with an arrow that makes her not in love with Apollo. And it's kind of like he chases her and like tries to her in Greek mythology. Her dissertation is on like this poem that's written in Daphne's point of view or something like that. As a person who loves Greek mythology, I feel like I should have understood what was happening in this book, and yet I did not know what was happening. I'm not saying the author has to hold your hand and baby explain to you as if you were like a toddler how dissertations and PhD programs and this myth works. But I am saying, like, you have to give us something. If you could have just dumbed it down for us, because I felt stupid reading it, and as a reader, believe it or not, I don't like feeling stupid. I saw this review on Goodreads, and this girl was like, oh, when they were talking about like dissertations and like all of the conferences and all of that, I felt right at home because I've gone to like thousands of those with my husband. And I was like, okay, so like if I have to go to thousands of dissertations with my husband to understand this book, I feel so stupid. But that was like one problem. My whole other problem is Chris. It was almost trying to be like season 1 of you know, where like this weird creepy dude falls in love with this girl because she's an intellectual and is like obsessed with her. But this fucking Chris dude, first of all, she sees this email and within like the first 50 pages, she goes to him and is like, hey, why would you send this awful recommendation? And he was like, I don't know what happened. There must have been a mistake. I wrote you I'll fix this. He admits, yeah, I did do this. And he's like, I'm so sorry. 50 pages in, the conflict is like already there. And then she proceeds to just not be bothered by the fact that he ruined her career. It's just so weird. He ruins her career. She can't get any other jobs other than this one at Oxford underneath him. And she's like, that's so fucked up. What you did is so messed up. And then proceeds to just continue to talk to him? I don't know. I don't understand. For half the book, she's like, I can't believe you did this. That's really fucked up. And he's like, I know, I'm sorry, but it's okay because you still have a job here. Like, you can work here. Like, I just wanted you to stay for longer. And she's like, ugh, you're awful. And then 70 pages later, they're fucking. Chris was an interesting character. I also didn't like how the author, this is written by a man, by the way. Not that men can't write good things, but I don't think it passes the Beckler test. Is it the Beckler test? I don't think that women talk about anything other than men in this book. It's painful. We're mad at Chris, obviously, because Chris ruined Tessa's career. And then we get this whole like moment from Chris's point of view where he's like going and taking care of his sick mom. And I'm like, if you think I'm supposed to give a single shit about this man because he has a sick mother, like what kind of crack are you on? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that your mom is dying of cancer. You did, however, ruin your student's career because you thought she was hot. There are just some things that aren't forgivable. I feel like, oh no. Certainly not. The whole plot about his mother was just put in so that we have some form of sympathy for this man, and I'm like, just let him be evil. Why are we trying to excuse it? Oh, like he's had a bad childhood, and I'm like, that really sucks, but like he is still butchering someone's career because he wants to fuck. So Chris has got like his whole dead mother, and also, every time Tessa talks to someone, like she talks to her sister and she's like, Chris ruined my career. He sent this horrible email out and I just don't know what to do. Her sister is like, well, you could come back to New Jersey where we live. Or, I mean, are you sure that you guys don't, like, there isn't something there? And Tessa's like, what do you mean? Like, he ruined my career. And he's like, yeah, but you know, you guys kind of orbit each other. Like, are you sure it's not because he loves you? I'm sorry. If I called my sister and I was like, hey, my mentor is sabotaging my career, she would not be like, well, is it because he's trying to get it? That's just not what sisters do, but okay. But halfway through this book, she goes to Rome to go to an archaeological dig. Don't know why, doesn't explain that one. Apparently it has to do with this poet, Marcus dude. And because apparently she needs to get away from her professor, she needs some time. So she goes to Rome, finds the bones of Marcus, and Marcus writes in limping iambs. Apparently it just means that like the poems feel like clunky. And we find out that he wrote limping iambs because he didn't have a leg. It was symbolic. And I was like, I mean, I feel like that's okay, sure. And then we also find out that Marcus is actually a girl and that the girl has been writing this whole time. So she finds out this great information and she's like, I'm going to do so much with this. I'm going to write my dissertation on this. I'm going to become so famous. Apparently Chris has access to her emails, so he sees all these emails and he steals her work. So she's in Rome. So we have to deal with Chris's point of view. And Chris's point of view, I hate. This man will explain for 2 paragraphs how he makes scrambled eggs, and it's just unnecessary. But so he has a little convo with his mom. So Chris is talking to his sick mom, and he's like, Mom, I'm kind of low-key in love with this girl, and I'm like low-key stalking her emails, and I kind of sabotaged her career. So I thought, so long as he isn't hurting anyone, let him be. I thought Chris's lies were the only path to his truth in a way. Chris found this speech from his mother moving. He goes to his mother and he's like, Mom, I know you're dying of cancer, and listen, I'm in love with a woman and I've been hacking her email and I sabotaged her career. And she's like, you know, if you really love her, it shouldn't be that much of a deal. I'm just, again, not a single woman in this has had a conversation that does not revolve around this man. Then they go to another dissertation paper conference or something, I don't know. And he presents before her, and since he's been, you know, reading her correspondence, he knows about Marcus. So he is like, haha, I will present in front of her and I will take the credit for this because this is really big in the classics world. And so he does that, and then, but he forgets to mention that Marcus is actually a woman. So Tessa goes up after him and is like, actually, Chris is fucking wrong and I'm fucking right. Bada bing, bada boom. Here's a picture of me at the dig site. Huzzah, huzzah. And so after, she like stomps up to Chris and she's like, you fucking tried to ruin my career again, you bastard. And he's like, yeah, I did, but I love you. And then she finds out that like her lease on her apartment, like she's getting evicted because she didn't pay rent. And he's like, live with me, like it's okay. Like I won't even be there. I'll be taking care of my mom. Like it's fine. And so she lives with him and I'm like, what? No one in their right mind would be like, yeah, why not? So then like his mom dies and he's all sad and he's like, will you, like, I know I've hurt you in the past, but will you please go to her funeral with me? And I just like, it's just unrealistic. This woman found out page 50, okay, page 50 she confronted him about letter of recommendation, and literally nothing has happened because of it, you know? She has just continued to talk to this man. She's just been like, how dare you? As if he like cheated on her or something. Like he literally ruined her career and she's just like, I'm so mad at you. Yeah, I'll live with you. What? Yeah, I'll go to your mom's funeral with you. Pardon? So she's at this funeral with him and she's like, wow, he hasn't mentioned the Case Western email that I fabricated. So like maybe he is a good guy. Her worst suspicions about him were unfounded. The guilt she now felt about Chris metasized and seemed to overtake every recent decision she made in her life. He hasn't said anything about that email I fakely made up. So maybe he is a good guy and maybe he just made one bad mistake. Yeah, he ruined my career twice, or at least he tried to ruin my career twice, but maybe he's like not such a bad guy. Like this is what I mean when I say it was written by a man. Anyway, so they go back to his house that she's now living in and he's like, Tessa, I love you. And she's like, you don't love me. You think you love me. And he's like, no, I do love you. And she's like, you sabotaged my career. And he's like, yeah, but I just wanted to be closer to you. And she's like, you're a fucked up man. And then they kiss. And then they're like, you know, about to get into it. And she's like, do you love me? And he's like, yes. And she's like, wrong answer. And I've read a lot of bad smut in my time as a gal who reads Kindle Unlimited books as cleansers. I've read some terrible stuff. This might be the most awkward and uncomfortable sex scene I have ever read in my entire life. She just gets up and she's like, we're not doing this then. If he says he loves me, I will not have sex with this man. So, and then she says, stop lying. And he says, okay, I don't love you. And then she's like, okay, great. You said you don't love me? Let's bone. Every time he says, I love you, she like smacks him. And then he's like, she says, do you love me? And he says, no. And then he starts crying bad. It was just so uncomfortable. So then like they bone, and for whatever reason. And then like later he's like, oh, like by the way, congrats on all of the new job offers you're getting. And she's like, yeah, like, thank you, I'm deciding to stay at Oxford. And he's like, yeah, I mean, you wouldn't like Ohio either. And she's like, pardon? What did you say? And he's like, you wouldn't like Ohio. And she's like, how did you hear that I was going to Ohio? And he was like, oh, you know, just like down the grapevine. And she's like, and that was a fake email that I sent to myself. So, and he like lunges at her and he's like, please, Tessa, like, please, like, Tessa, like, I'm so sorry, like, I love you. And she like smashes him over the head with a statue and then he dies, and she like makes it look like he killed himself. And then she goes on to like steal his job. So it's supposed to be like, yeah, like she did it. She girl bossed. Look at her go. She killed the bitch, and now she has his job. We love women. But it's simply not giving we love women, you know, considering the other 97 pages of this book. This book sucked. Simply, it was terrible. The amount of like trying to redeem Chris with his dying mother, and the fact that Tessa knew that he sabotaged her career in the first 50 pages and then proceeded to just continue talking to him and also bone him and live with him is just so absolutely ridiculous. And I was so excited because, like, here's the thing. I think that the premise is so fun. But if you were going to do it properly, for one, she should have gotten that email at around the halfway point at least, so we could build up some suspicion and we could also, like, you know, really get to know the characters and feel betrayed. I did not feel betrayed with the fact that Chris did this. I had no emotions about it because it was the first thing I read. If it was the halfway point where she finds out that, like, and then we could have built the relationship and seen like how well they worked together and been like, yeah, cool, this professor is so awesome, and be also just as betrayed as Tessa. That would have been an option, you know, would have been a great option. And then their relationship would have made a little more sense because, like, you know, from the beginning we know that he sabotaged her career, so I'm like, why are they boning? But if we had them like have an intimate relationship before, and then he sabotages her career, and then he sabotages her career again at the dissertation paper, we would feel like triple gutted, but that did not happen. Also, give female characters another thing to talk about other than a man. That might have made the book better. I don't know. I'm just a gal, who's to say? Could be wrong. Might have improved it. I truly would love a book that is a professor obsessed with his student simply because they are so smart and they are going to outshine his career. A professor who is obsessed with his student, not for romantic reasons, but because of academic reasons. I think that is far more powerful. Make him sabotage for like good reasons other than love. Love is a pretty lame reason to sabotage in this sense, you know? Those are my thoughts. And it also took me so long to read, and I kept going back onto Goodreads and reading reviews, and people kept saying like, once it hits the 150, like things really flip. Around the 150 is when she goes on the archaeological dig to find out stuff about Marcus. But at that point I had practically given up. I didn't understand what the fuck was happening, and also I didn't understand, how did she just get onto an archaeological dig? I don't know. Anyway, I held out and I finished it, and I'm kind of glad I did. I'm willing to give a book like a little bit. Like, I'm saying like around 100 pages. If I don't like it at 100 pages, then it's probably not good. But like 150, and also at 150 it wasn't good, let's be real. I also saw a lot of reviews that were like, I was having a good time until she fucked her professor and then I just lost it. And I was like, at like 150, when I saw reviews for that, I was like, now we have to finish it because pardon? And then a lot of people said that the ending was satisfying, and I just cannot agree because the ending felt rushed and random. She just, okay, girl boss. I feel like it's been a while since I've really ranted about a book. I hate it on here. So there you go. The Latin is, don't read it, or do. Write a dissertation on why this book is written by a man, you know? Now that you know it's a bad book, hopefully you can read this book and have fun. I did not know this was a bad book, and I had a miserable time. That is all I have for you all today. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you on the flippity flop. Peace, peace.